While Giannis Antetokounmpo will be out 2 to 4 weeks with his calf injury, the real story is, will he be traded sooner rather than later? The Clippers also get good news in regards to the Kawhi Leonard investigation, while Lawrence Frank looks set for an extension with the Los Angeles Clippers as well, and the Pelicans are prepping for a major roster overhaul. We'll talk about all that and more on today's NBA Central.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So yesterday, Giannis Antetokounmpo, there was a lot of news around him. Reportedly, Brian Windhorst first reported that he did request a trade specifically to the New York Knicks. Shams then followed that up not too long after, reporting that Giannis is meeting with his agent and the Milwaukee Bucks to kind of determine what's going on with their future. And then at the end of the day, yesterday in a game, he got injured in what was feared to be an Achilles injury, and luckily they were able to rule that out pretty quickly. It is reported that he does have a right calf strain that will leave him out 2 to 4 weeks, and that's there, right? So luckily he avoided a major injury. That's the big part about that. He did have a right abductor strain as well that left him out for a little while. The Bucks already proved that they struggle to win without Giannis being there. And so now people are starting to, this extended period of time that he could be out could leave him without being able to qualify for postseason awards. He may not meet the game limitations there. That just is what it is. But the biggest thing comes down to this Giannis trade thing going on. And reportedly, a lot of execs around the NBA are starting to question, is Giannis really open to being moved to any team not named the New York Knicks? Saying this, in the wake of what happened yesterday, I'm getting two different questions from people in the league over the last 24 hours from Brian Windhorst. One is, do we think that after saber rattling before in August, he had an interest in playing for the Knicks? The Knicks and Bucks had trade conversations about it. They weren't able to come to a deal. But I promise you, it wasn't the Bucks' idea to have those negotiations. I promise you, the Knicks got the call to ask and start trade conversations because they didn't think it was coming. So did Giannis come and sit with ownership and say, trade me? He did not, but he was interested in it. Here we are again, and there's interest in Giannis' side and maybe making a change. So that's not anything that's too questionable there, right? I think that follows in with what we've seen before. So that's not surprising that, Giannis is open to a trade and things like that. The question now is that will he actually sit down and say, no, let me get up out of here? And if he is that will include more teams than just the New York Knicks? And that's a question here that Brian Windhorst pushes forward. And that's the question that now a lot of teams around the NBA are going to be asking. If the Bucks are going to make Giannis available between now and the trade deadline and seriously start a place where they are taking trade calls and conversations on Giannis Antetokounmpo, every team around the NBA is going to be interested. A lot of teams, let me say not everyone, but a lot of teams are going to be. Giannis is eligible for an extension on October 1st, 2026 for a 4-year, $275 million maximum deal that would keep him locked into the 2030-2031 season. And best believe, teams are going to want that commitment from Giannis as well if they make a trade for him, or he could become a free agent as early as 2027. So that's going to be the question here, right? Is that A, does Giannis broaden his horizons to more teams than just the New York Knicks? And if he's willing to sign an extension with the new team as soon as possible before next season starts? And if he is, how does that also determine how the team builds and things like that? So as it stands right now, right, moving Giannis is going to be always easier in the offseason than what it's going to be during the regular season. That's just the reality of it. Now, if Giannis does put some pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks, we could see something done during the season. I still personally think it's probably a safe bet that Giannis is going to finish this season out with the Milwaukee Bucks. I know that's not the most fun thing to say. I know that's not the most eye-grabbing or clickbait thing to say, but Giannis is probably going to finish with the Bucks, and the Bucks may recoup and kind of refocus all this in the offseason. At that point in time, a team that trades for Giannis could get him signed to an extension pretty quickly after trading for him, a la Kevin Durant with the Houston Rockets this year. Think of it kind of in that same framework, and that's probably what they're going to be looking to do. That's just my personal opinion. I would not be surprised to see kind of work out and shake out that way. It just comes down to how much pressure does Giannis and his agency put on the Milwaukee Bucks, and then how much do they broaden the horizons to different teams. but there are going to be a lot more teams invested, a lot more teams as well with knowing exactly where their draft picks. And while I know teams could trade draft picks now, it's a lot different than trading a potential first-round pick, for example, than trading a pick is already a top 5 pick, right? Something like that. So that's where this could go, and we could see Giannis definitely moved in still by this trade deadline, but a lot of all eyes are on Giannis to see if he makes it even to the past the trade deadline, and if this goes and bleeds into the offseason, and if it does, how big of a story does that become then? But let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, let's move into the next topic. League sources do not expect any penalties for the Clippers in regards to the Kawhi Leonard and aspiration, sponsorship probe that was there. This is an interesting one, right? Like Kawhi Leonard, of course, we all know at this point, he received a 4-year, $28 million contract from Aspiration in 2022 that did not force him to perform any work. There are a number of investments made between the Clippers owner and other people around the Clippers as well, with Steve Ballmer, who made a $50 million investment. And then a minority owner, Dennis Wong, as well made an investment. But apparently this investigation may conclude, and people are starting to expect that it's going to end with the Clippers not getting any real punishment in this. Right now, for what it's worth, the NBA has not announced anything as far as concluding their investigation or anything, right? But with the league focused on finding a direct link and evidence that they orchestrated this, it could lead to the Clippers escaping this without any significant, fines or penalties there. Now, that is surprising. I thought with the Pablo Torre article, all the things that have come out since then, just how the optics of everything looked, that it would be difficult for the Clippers to escape this without some punishment. But it looks like that may be what's happening. With Aspiration now bankrupt, they're gone, right? They were a sponsor of the Clippers before, that arrangement. Now that's all gone. It does lead now to, hey, well, how does this now affect teams around the NBA? How does this affect salary cap circumvention, which is something that we know that the NBA is terrified of, especially with these contracts ballooning out and stuff like that. So, we'll see what happens there. But as it says right now, right, according to league sources, is that multiple sources outside the organization share the team's belief that the league will not uncover wrongdoing in the matter. Now, it's important to say that this is coming from sources within the Clippers, right? And so, that could be hopeful from the Clippers. It could be something that, would the NBA kind of let the Clippers organization know if they're about to find the shit out of them? All these type of questions exist, right? But the sooner rather than later that the NBA gets this underway and finds whatever place they're going to go with this, that's going to be the better for the NBA. It's going to be best for the league just to get this done out the way. But you also want to come to a realistic conclusion. You do want to uncover anything if it is there to uncover. And I guess we now shall see if the NBA does. Now, for what it's worth as well, Lawrence Frank with the Clippers is expected to get a contract extension. It's just a lot of Clippers news going on, right? Is that he's now expected to receive a contract extension despite the team being on a 6-16 start this season. This also comes from multiple sources as well, saying this: owner Steve Ballmer and Clippers organization remain committed to the continuity amid a season plagued by injury, roster upheaval, and an ongoing NBA investigation. The team released veteran point guard Chris Paul on Wednesday, the latest crisis in a disastrous campaign that has seen the franchise spiral. Clipper sources emphasize ownership's commitment to continuity, but characterized contract extension discussions as premature. One league source said have been in planning stages, that extensions have been in planning stages for a while. It just hasn't happened yet. Now, I mean, I guess you don't want to announce a bunch of contract extensions while you have all these investigations and everything going on. You just released Chris Paul, which was definitely looked at as weird around the league. And so that's going to be something that, is going to be interesting to see. One of the things as well with this Clippers team is that if Lawrence Frank, Ty Lue, if they get, like, you let Chris Paul go because he was reportedly undermining Ty Lue, so it makes sense if everybody gets extensions. In that case, I just don't know where this Clippers team is going to go. And then a lot of people are asking where Chris Paul is headed as well. Could he go, to the Denver Nuggets have been mentioned as a team to have an additional ball handler there? Of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves have absolutely been mentioned. The Dallas Mavericks have been mentioned as a team as well. But just overall, there's a lot of shit going on around the Clippers, to just be quite frank. And I'm sure they're ready. I'm sure the NBA is ready to just put all this behind them. But we shall see what's going to happen there. Extensions, no fines. You released a Hall of Famer. What's going on with this Clippers team? I'll tell you one thing that's not going on with them: wins. That's one thing that's not happening in this Clippers organization. And I'm sure they're hoping, and their fan base is hoping, to turn that around sooner rather than later. But with that said, let's get into the last topic for today. reportedly the Pelicans are evaluating aggressive trade options as the trade market opens up as well. This one, comes from Yahoo Sports. I'll say this. Interim coach James Borrego is navigating the transition in real time. Tasks will help in the front office evaluate the roster ahead of the trade deadline, expected to bring significant change. Everyone from Jose Alvarado to Yves Missy, Bryce McGowan, and Micah Peavy have something at stake as the NBA trade market opens up. So we'll see, right? Like, the Pelicans have players, of course, that our teams could be interested in. We know that. Right now, I'm surprised to see Yves Missy's name there, considering he's a young player, but they do have players that they can pivot and trade and try to garner some and stack some assets, right? They gave up an unprotected first-round pick to draft Derek Queen. They very well. Now, we know that Zion's going to be out for a little bit of time. Also, reportedly, the Pelicans are kind of willing to move Zion, but there's no trade market for Zion Williamson, which then leads you into a whole different place as well. So, listen, this whole saga with Zion and all this type of stuff going on with the Pelicans, I don't know where this ends. But I will say this. The Pelicans are a team that have look like they have a young core that's starting to build there. Yves Missy, Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, right? They have players. That's not to mention that Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones, which we've heard that Trey Murphy III could be a player as well that could be on the trade market. We're going to see what the Pelicans do. And if they value building and stacking assets and building these young guys kind of organically and just maybe embracing being bad, or if that lure that's always there for some NBA franchises to continue trying to win. And, we'll see what happens with Zion. We'll see what happens with other players on this roster. They got DeJounte Murray still with him not being healthy yet either, right? So we'll see. But I want to hear from you guys down below. What do you think the Pelicans should do? Should they blow up the roster, try to get as many assets back with keeping some key young pieces while moving others? Or should they just stay the course and let these players develop while keeping Zion on the roster? Let me know what you guys think on that. But appreciate y'all rocking with me for today. This Giannis saga is only going to get more wild. The Clippers are clinging on to some type of stability in their franchise, and the Pelicans are heading towards, reportedly, a franchise-defining trade season. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Giannis staying or going? And who should the Pelicans move first? Want to hear from you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. Catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.